Hello, and welcome to the Ticket Booth, now showing Salem's Lot 2024, a movie that, and don't hate me because I know horror fans are really protective about their movies. It's a movie that I didn't know had an original. Uh, so whenever I told Cam, I was like, we're going to be watching Salem's Lot today. He goes, oh, the old one? I was like, the old one? Yeah, there's apparently one that was, in the 70s, late 70s?
1979.
1979, the latest of the 70s you could possibly get. But we watched the 2024 one. Now, apparently, a lot of you just groaned. Apparently, a lot of you just, slapped your hand on your forehead and was like, why the hell would you guys watch that movie? Because we looked at the audience scores, and let me just go through this real quick and just show, just in case you don't know. And not to deter you if you haven't watched this movie, because you're gonna hear our point of view. The Rotten Tomatoes for Salem's Lot 2024 is a 45% critic score. Now, I respect critics and what they do. I wouldn't say ever, but I rarely agree with the critics. But this one actually surprised me. It's got a 39% audience score.
Had a lower audience score than the critic score.
I know, which is you don't usually find that, but it does have a 39% audience score, and do you agree with that? Do you think it deserved a 39%?
Nah, I'd give it like a C, like average, like okay.
Like if you had to put a percent on it, what would you say?
I would give it like a 65, 70%.
I'd say that. I'd say that's fair. There's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs. But I feel like there's more ups for me than there is downs. Before we get into spoiler territory, it's Salem's Lot is about it's a vampire flick. You like vampires? It's a pretty good one. I mean,
not the best choice, not my first choice. Even on Max, not my first choice.
I know you like your favorite vampire thing is
my favorite vampire movie is probably.
Let me guess. Is it between two different movies right now?
Yeah.
Is it
Interview with the Vampire and Lost Boys? That's probably Lost Boys.
What was the first one?
Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the Demeter. Last Voyage of the
Demeter. Oh, Last Voyage of the Demeter. Nah, it's either between, because Interview with the Vampire, like that, I don't know why, it just is like a quintessential vampire movie to me. But I kind of like Lost Boys the most because like it has the 80s, flair to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen either of those. I call myself a horror fan, but yet I haven't seen a lot of horror.
I don't know if I wouldn't consider Interview with the Vampire horror.
No, that's more.
It's more like drama.
Yeah. Now
with horror elements.
I feel like not that I'm not a horror fan because I do like horror movies. I feel like I'm more so a slasher fan because I've seen a lot of slashers rather than just straight horror. Like I've seen Conjuring and stuff like that. I've never seen the Insidious movies. I think I've seen one. Not the first one.
I haven't. I don't remember which one I watched. I know the first one's the one with the red face.
Yeah, I didn't watch that. I forget exactly which one I watched, but
I never was really into ghost movies like that.
Conjuring's good.
I like monster movies, but not like
Conjuring to me has gone down. Like it's just a steady downward.
Yeah, I think the best one was the second one. No,
really?
The second one's better.
Really?
The second one's the one with the crooked man, right?
Yeah,
the second one's to the infield poltergeist or whatever.
I mean, the second one's a little bit more supernatural. I feel like, the first one feels like it's kind of somewhat
I don't know, the first one's not that scary to me.
I like that it's a little bit more realistic. Like it's more haunting. But
yeah.
Oh no, today we're not here to talk about The Conjuring. I just wanted to mention that I'm dipping my toes a little bit more into the horror genre. I've seen a good amount, just not enough that I'd want to. I've been diving into it. But tonight, I picked a movie that we had both not seen because last week when we watched Trick or Treat, Cam had already seen it and I'd never seen it. So maybe next week it'll be a movie that I've seen that he hasn't seen, and then we'll just go back, and the last one we do for the month will be one that we haven't seen again. So we'll see. We're kind of throwing out ideas. But let's just hop into it. Don't let our opinions sway you. If you guys want to watch it for yourself, go and watch it. It's on Max, along with, I'm pretty sure the
original's on
the
there.
original is on there as well. It
was a miniseries, and it's 3 hours combined. Yeah. The original, thank God.
This one's only about like an hour 45.
Yeah, it's like hour, 2 hours almost.
But yeah, I thought it was good. he thought it was good, as you guys can tell from our opinions on the scores or whatever. But let's just...
It's not good in the way that Trick or Treat's good, though.
No, Trick or Treat's, hands down, it's great. But I enjoyed this movie.
It's
we'll
an enjoyable movie.
Yes. All right, so Salem's Lot 2024. First thing we get is, we got like the intro credits. And I actually thought those were pretty cool. It was like the map. It was like a map, and it just kept like having blood that was like soaking on it.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And this movie, right off the bat, and part of it was my projector, because I've checked halfway through the movie. The movie isn't that dark. It was
I think it was just the projector.
But it still is a dark movie, because Trick or Treat wasn't that bad.
Yeah, Trick or Treat, we didn't have to do anything.
No, but I had to raise the brightness on the projector, because we watched it on the projector.
One movie that was on Max that I wish we'd watched that was taken off of Max?
What?
Freddy vs. Jason. I really didn't think it.
I almost did the reboot Friday the 13th.
Oh, 2009? Yeah, that's good. That's a good movie.
Almost did that one, but who knows?
It's a good reboot.
We might. Who knows? So yeah, we get that intro, and it was kind of hard for me to keep up, because this movie is unlike Trick or Treat, where everything it's hard to explain. It's like Trick or Treat. It's also a very audible movie, so you can kind of like, you get a glimpse. Like, for example, you get Mr. Wilkins talking to the kid we call Rowley. You see Mr. Wilkins say something to him. They start talking on the porch. I can still hear what they're saying, and I can look down and write. And with this movie being darker than Trick or Treat, like visually, it was a little bit harder for me to see what I was writing on my notes. And so this movie is not as like audible, I should say. Like, you could hear it, obviously, not like how much you can hear it. But this movie, you kind of got to watch and see what's happening to kind of understand, especially the beginning. So forgive me if we trail off sometimes, at least me. But we get this one guy who I don't think we really ever see afterwards. He's talking to who will be later known as Straker. Now, we'll get into the importance of Straker in a bit, but he's talking about how he wants this guy to transfer this crate from point A to point B. Point B being this house that's up on the hills called the Marston House. And apparently this Marston house had a murder-suicide inside of it.
That was kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, but it's like this
I guess like it shows that the house is like creepy.
Yeah.
Like the old, I would say every neighborhood, but I never had that, where it's like an old...
I don't think I've ever had that.
Yeah, like
no, that's not true, because my mom's house now, she lives in a neighborhood where there was a serial killer. Literally, I pass it every single time I go to her house. I pass this.
One she's in now? In Clemens?
Yep.
That one?
Yep.
Well, who?
His name was...
Oh, he wasn't in her neighborhood. He was not. He was the town of Clemens. I know, because I used to live in... I know that he lived in like a house. I know where he lived.
I do too.
It wasn't in that neighborhood, dude.
It was.
It was not in that neighborhood.
I lived there. We're about to argue about this. Hold on one second.
I actually lived there for years.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on, everybody. Okay, listen. No.
Yeah, where's my phone at?
Okay, go ahead. So, it turns out Cam's wrong. I was right. And, he doesn't want to admit it. He tried to argue with me.
It says off.
Anyways, there's a murder house called the Marston House. It was a murder-suicide, and they fucking stop looking at it, damn it. So this guy that took this, I don't want to say it's a contract, but he was talking to Straker, and Straker asked him to go and get the vampire, or what he didn't know was to be the vampire. He just got this crate, and he had his buddy with him. And now that I think about it, was his buddy Mike? He had long hair.
I don't remember.
I don't know. So he had a buddy with him, and they're driving, and you hear one of them goes, "Everybody knows the Marston House," and it just made me think of John Marston.
Yeah.
From Red Dead.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of this,
I guess John killed Abigail and then killed himself.
Yeah. So They go up to this house and they're going to put this crate in the cellar, and the one of the guys is opening the cellar while the other one backs it up. And it was a cool visual because the tail lights, you're getting like an over the shoulder from behind view of the guy opening the cellar, and everything starts to start glowing red, but it's just the tail lights. And it just, to me, it looked cool. I thought the visuals was really cool. But we get to see the vampire very briefly because they get in, they get the crate in, but they bust it open. The vampire gets out, and they manage to get away before he actually busts out. But you get a small glimpse of him. He looked really cool. And that's like the main vampire. Apparently his name is Barlow. I don't know if they had an explanation for it in this movie or if they did in the original, but just a random ass name.
Barlow, yeah.
So then we get to see our main character, our Stephen King insert, because he always has one.
Who was his insert in it? I guess
Bill.
Oh yeah,
Bill.
Yeah.
Because he always has these James McAvoy looking guys. Because it was James McAvoy in It Chapter 2. This guy just looked like him with the Rick Grimes hair.
That's what I was thinking. He looked like James McAvoy.
I was like,
I don't know who the guy was, but he looked like James McAvoy.
There's always as far from what I saw, there's always a writer, and in his stories, and in It, Bill became a writer. In this story, his name is Ben. He really likes the bees. He's a writer. He's an author. Published some books, and I just self-insert. And are you looking up the actor?
Yeah, Lewis Pullman.
Wait, I gotta figure something out. Go look at Stryker. What was his actor? What is that? Euron Greyjoy?
Yeah,
that's why he looks so familiar. That's why he looks so fucking familiar.
I didn't even realize that. It's just because he acts so much different as this guy.
I knew. I was like, the whole movie. I was like,
because when he's Euron's like a blabbermouth type of guy, while this guy's like a mysterious kind of guy. Wow, I didn't even recognize that.
Yeah. So Ben is going back to. It's originally called Jerusalem's Lot, and but it's part of the sign was rubbed off, and now it's Salem's Lot. He's going through because Ben used to live here, and he's coming to do some research. He said on himself. Did you understand that? Why did you look up like that?
He's going to do research on himself?
That's what he said.
Oh, yeah, because he's looking at... I don't know what... That's one thing about this movie. It's like not a very memorable movie. That's the thing.
Like
it's
a lot of
like
finer detail.
Movie.
Yeah,
not schlock, but like...
I don't even know what the hell a schlock is.
Like, schlocky movies, like Schlock Through. You never heard Schlock?
You never heard
Schlock, like movie Schlock?
They're gonna think we'd say we had like 5 shots before this.
You never heard of Schlock? Like,
no, stop saying it. It's weird. It's making me uncomfortable for some reason.
You never heard of Schlock? Like,
no.
The movie was a Schlock? Well, look it up. It's a thing.
Wow, this movie is real schleber.
Am I gonna have to pull out Google?
This movie's a real schleber. Okay.
Yeah. Well. That's the thing. This movie's not very like memorable.
The finer details are
like it's a fun vampire movie.
Oh my god,
that's pretty much what it is.
Damn schlock!
It's literal vampire.
So yes, I lost my place again. Over here schlocking me.
Oh my god!
Are you about to look up schlock?
Yeah, I'm about to look up schlock. No, I'm looking it up.
Cut this.
No, don't. This is what people love. Cheap or inferior goods or material. So, like a cheap, like B movie. That's what you call schlock.
Okay. So, Ben is coming through here, and apparently he's doing some research on himself. And he goes to this, like, rental place where he's trying to find a rental. It's not that important. It's just where he meets a character named Susan. He walks in, and Susan is reading his book. Who he has a picture on the back of the book, and he goes, how's the book or something like that, and she makes it. She smiles like laughs a little bit, like playfully, and goes, "Oh, I'm at the point in the book where I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to keep reading." I took that because the picture on the back of is literally the entire back of the book. It's not just like a small little picture; it's the whole back of the book. So I took that as, "Oh, she's just joking around with him." And
I knew
then
she didn't know it was him.
she puts it down, and then her boss comes out, and like he's a dick, and he's like he's literally the most sexist person I've like the most bluntly sexist person. He's just like, "Oh yeah, she's just my secretary. She doesn't know anything," shit like that. And then I forget exactly what happens. And he mentioned something. I think the boss mentioned something about him being a writer, and and she goes, "Yeah, maybe that's why you look so familiar." Again, laughing playfully, and he goes, "Yeah, I am." And then she looks at her book, and then oh no, he says his name, and then she looks at the book, sees his name on the side of the book, and then like goes kind of like straight face, kind of like she's embarrassed. I'm like, that's when it clicked. I was like, wait, does she not know who he was? Why'd you act like that?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whatever.
No, I mean it was obvious to me. I don't know how you didn't catch on to that.
I thought
that's why
she was joking.
That's why when he'd asked, when she was like, I forgot what she said, but he was like, "Well, how's the book?" When she asked, "Who are you?"
Yeah,
and he said, "How's the book?" And then she's like, "Well, I'm at the point where I haven't decided." I kind of could tell she didn't realize it was him. It's like whenever you see something like a piece of art or something, you're like, "God, this looks like crap," and then the person beside you thought
I just thought she was busting his balls. I thought that she was just fucking with him.
No, she didn't know who he was.
Well, yeah, I got that part now, but so then we cut from them to this kid, and they're at school, and oh boy, we didn't realize that this was a Salem's Lot crossover with the boys because fucking Homelander done took him to Salem's Lot.
Yeah, that's where he was before Homelander found him.
Yeah, Ryan was here.
He was a vampire.
Not yet. Spoiler. There's this kid named Mark, and he's getting bullied, and that Ryan's there trying to help him, but not really.
Yeah, the friend group. It's kind of like how they have it is. It makes you think it's kind of like Stranger Things or something, where it's like these are going to be the main characters, them and the writer guy, but they're not the main characters.
No, it's kind of like there's not really the main writer guy. Ben is, I guess you would say, the main character, but it's like a revolving door of just important characters.
Yeah.
So we see them. He's getting bullied. We see this teacher who comes out to help him because Mark actually, as he's getting bullied and tossed around, he kind of just flips the script and is like, "Nah, I'm gonna beat your ass now," and just does it.
Yeah.
Gets the kid bully on the ground, chicken winging him, say uncle and shit. And the teacher comes out, knows that kid he was, fighting because Mark is new here at this school. He knows that the kid that was bullying Mark is a bully, so he doesn't really, just like, hey, be careful. The teacher's name is Mr. Burke. Burke.
Yeah.
He's an important character later on. But then we cut back to we're at the library, and Ben is going through like different newspapers on a computer of sorts. This is like what set in the when was this set in the 70s? 60s.
Yeah, because I don't remember if they said his parents died a few years ago, but in that newspaper clipping he showed it was 1958. So my assumption is like he came back 2 years later or something.
It is either 60s.
It's in the 60s. Like I know the cars are 60s cars because you see a lot
cars.
of like, you see a lot of like fastbacks and things like that in there.
That's literally funny because my first note on this page was cars had so much character back in the day.
Yeah, they really did. They really did.
I love
now they just look the same. Like every car you see. This I know.
Is that a Honda? No, that's a Corvette.
No, like look at Chrysler stuff and Teslas. Like I think they look exactly the same.
Yeah,
which is not a good thing.
But they're in the library, or he's in the library looking through like old newspapers, and then Susan and I guess her friends or just people she knows come in to the library, and they're talking about how she has a crush, and they see the guy, they see Ben, and one lady starts talking about Ben and his backstory, which his parents had died in a car crash, and we get a cut, like, as she's saying this, we're seeing him scrolling through the newspapers and seeing him see that. Is that relevant to the story? Not a fucking chance. There's no reason that was just, it's here, now it's gone. You'll never see it again.
Yeah, that's a big problem with this movie too that I think is, like in Trick or Treat, we were talking about how they show this stuff because it's important to the movie, or like it comes up later, or it has a central purpose. Like his parents, him looking through the newspaper clippings, like honestly, you didn't need to know about his parents or anything. That was like a pointless.
I guess
it was backstory for him why he came to the town. I guess.
Maybe it's just because they needed to tell us why he's there, because otherwise he has no reason to be there. Because he mentions that it's not for a book, and he's just here back in his.
Well, but even if though he's from there, that's all he needs to say. Like it doesn't. I don't know. To me, that's my big issue with this movie, is that, and it kind of, the pacing to me is too fast, but.
My thing is, there are some parts that are too fast, and there's some things that I didn't mind, and I'll get to those later, but because I got them written down. But they're talking about him, and he's right there, and then Susan starts to mention that she's going to some drive-in tonight, and for some reason, while she says that, Ben he's like 20 feet away from him, and he overhears, he just goes like that, just out of nowhere, and just looks at him.
Yeah. What? He doesn't even say anything.
He just stares
like
at him.
He does that. I guess he's trying to get him to shut up. I don't know. But he doesn't. But then she goes and talks to him all friendly, and he just doesn't. He just stares. He's like this.
He slams his hand down on the desk, and then right after he does, Susan looks at him and goes, "Yes, I'm going to the drive-in tonight." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this part in the movie specifically, this line, this dialogue is so fucking corny. It is. Yeah, it is so cringy.
Like, why the hell? Why did he do that?
I don't know. But then we cut to. Do we cut? Yeah. Then we cut to. We see the kids. We got Mark. We got Danny, who is actually Ryan from The Boys, and we've got, what was his name? Reggie, the harmonica kid. Was it Reggie? Ralph. So yeah, we got Ralph or Ralphie. They call him both. They're all at Mark's house, and Mark he's a horror fan. He likes little scary stuff, so he's got like this diorama of different horror stuff, and I see this cross, and every time we see Mark in his room, we see this cross. So I knew that this was important, and that's one thing that you get minute details, and with this movie, it's like a 50-50 on whether or not they're important. But vampires, so I was like, that's probably important. But they're talking about how Mark isn't afraid of anything. Like, I think Danny's like, "Oh, Mark, you're really not afraid of anything at all, are you?" I'm like, could that be the biggest understatement of this damn movie ever? That Mark definitely was not afraid of a single fucking thing in this movie at all.
Yeah.
So then I'm trying to see, this is where it kind of gets a little blurry because a lot of things are happening at the same time. Danny and Ralph leave Mark's house, and Mark gave Ralph a harmonica because Ralph is a scaredy cat, and he said something about like, when you breathe through this, it controls your breathing or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about with a harmonica.
I guess sort of same as like breathing into a paper bag or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but a harmonica doesn't. It makes the sound from the breath you put out, I guess, but.
I don't know. I don't know what the purpose is. Maybe somebody in the comments does, but.
That's why I give this movie 70 to 60.
Danny and Ralph are walking home, and Straker, who we saw at the beginning, pulls up, and Straker opens a store, an antique store called Barlow and Straker, which Barlow we know as the vampire, and that's not really important. He's just there in the town now. But he drives up, and
well, I kind of said it though. What he is like.
Yeah,
he's like a Renfield to Barlow. Yeah, like he's like the human servant.
That's important. Like, yeah, Straker's like, the Renfield to Dracula, the human servant or whatever. I was just saying that them opening a store, I guess maybe they just have an alibi to be there. I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't really need the store.
No.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I'm sure in the book, this is in the book too, I'm sure. And I'm sure the book is more, because the book's a book, so you can go more in detail.
Yeah, Stephen King always writes big books.
Yeah, so it probably, like we said, this movie, we'll talk about it after we're done going through the movie, but there's some, like, if we could change things about this movie, there's some things we'd change.
Yeah. But so he pulls up along Danny and Ralph, and he's like, "Oh, he's like, you guys want to basically like, you just want to get in my car?"
Yeah,
just straight up, just want to hop in.
You want some candy?
Yeah, for real.
I have candy. That's what you thought.
And you expect these kids to do something stupid, but Danny's like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna go through the woods now, and they both walk through the woods.
Yeah, you like, let's get off. I'm good. I'm gonna get off the main road and go in this desolate forest.
Yes.
Near this creepy old house. Why were they even up there?
They were walking home.
Are you sure they weren't by the house? Because like,
no, they were on a road.
Oh, okay. Well, why is their school like just?
They were walking home from Mark's house.
Why is Mark out in the middle of the woods?
Mark is okay. Listen here.
It's like
it's Salem's lot. Dude.
Okay.
It's not Salem's development.
I know, but it's like Maine. So is Maine like real country? Like
is this Maine? Did it say
Maine?
Yes,
it said Maine.
Jerusalem
lot, Maine. Remember, I was like,
is everything in Stephen King Maine? I don't.
Probably Maine is like hell, and Stephen King like
Jesus.
I mean, yeah.
What happened to Stephen King?
I don't disagree, but
Stephen, if you're watching this, what the hell happened to you in Maine?
Yeah. I think he's from Maine. I think that's what it is.
He must have hated it. He's given us every reason not to go.
I'm like, all right. At the end, we'll get to it at the
end. So they go through the woods, and you get this shot where it's like kind of like their silhouette, because the sun is setting. So you don't see features; you just see their silhouette. Danny's in front of Ralph, and then it kind of pans a little bit over to Danny in front because they're spaced out. And then it pans back to Ralph, and now Straker's silhouette's behind him. And then he takes him. And Danny just is like, Ralph? That's it. Yeah. But Straker takes, Straker takes Ralph back to the Marston house where he sacrifices Ralph to Barlow. And Barlow, we haven't seen like a full like up close, but he's pretty scary.
He looks like Count Orlok from Nosferatu.
Yeah.
People who've seen the original one, he's not far off from that.
Yeah.
The original one actually looks scarier, but
yeah, no, we watched like one tiny like 5-second clip, and it's just Barlow just like that.
He just pops up.
But so yeah, all the candles get blown out, which we see that a lot every time Barlow comes around, or a vampire in general. If there's fire, it goes out. And it's pretty. Is this part guttural? I can't remember. Did you hear anything, or did it just cut off whenever he sacrificed Ralph?
What
was it? Like, did we hear him kill him, or I can't remember if it just cut off.
I think it just cut.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Ralph is dead at this point. So, the next day, the town is searching for Ralph. And we get Ben is riding in the back of this pickup truck looking, and he's with Mr. Burke. And everybody's like mean mugging him. And Cam thought for a second everybody thought that he took Danny. And then we quickly find out it's just no. Everybody just likes Susan. Everybody's like, nah. Because Susan's, they're getting like this kind of.
After a week, yeah.
Yeah. Because, I completely missed something. We completely skipped over something. The first drive-in. And I'm glad that I remember that because that's actually important. That's like one of those this is like probably the most very minute detail that carries on in the last half of the movie. So before Ralph gets taken, we get a scene of, because Susan was going to the drive-in, and she said it to Ben, he goes to the drive-in, and they're like on the far left. And, you can only see half the screen. So she's like, I got a better spot. So she takes them on top of the roof of the drive-in building where the projector is. And they're like sitting with the projector, like screen, like window in between them. And before the movie starts, she starts pointing out people and, trying to help him with the town. There is I think
Barlow.
Barlow's here. I don't know if you guys hear this sirens outside. Yeah, just but she's like mentioning, and then she points out this car, and she's like, "Oh, that's a rite of passage," because they open up the trunk, and a bunch of people get out. So they just snuck like 3 people in through the trunk. So yeah, that's important. So they talk, they're getting along, stuff like that, getting a little closer. So then fast forward to what I was just talking about earlier. Everybody's kind of looking at him. People have, they're like, oh, we like, Susan, so we don't like you. But Bert kind of takes a liking to Ben, and they talk a little bit.
Well, and another thing too, it's not like Ben should know who these people are because he was from there too.
Do you think so?
Yes, he lived there. He left because his parents died. They say that.
Oh.
Why the hell are they acting like he's there? She's like, you're an outsider. He's from there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess he's an outsider now because he's been gone for a while, but he's from there. They say that.
Yeah, so they call off the search, and later that night, actually, we see Danny again in bed, and he hears... What does he hear? Does he hear like a knock, or does he hear a voice outside or something? I think he hears a voice. He hears something, and he thinks it's Ralph, and it's all foggy outside. And he does, again, I said this a lot in Trick or Treat, like, hey, they shouldn't do that. But again, like Cam said last episode, just suspend disbelief. He walks outside, and, we're getting these Michael Myers level, toying around with your victims, where he sees the harmonica laying on the ground, the seesaw, because apparently kids had seesaws in their backyard back then, raises up because half of it's in the fog.
I didn't even think about that. Why does he have a seesaw?
Yeah, I don't know. His backyard's connected to their school, apparently.
Yeah.
And it raises up, and then we get kind of like a faraway shot of him, and he just gets swooped up. And
yeah,
like he's dead.
Nope. No, he's not dead. It cuts the next day, he's back.
Yeah, it goes from him getting swooped up into the sky, and you're thinking he's dead, and then it just immediately cuts. He's standing over his mom's bed going, I don't feel so good.
I guess he forgot what happened.
Yeah, because it seemed like that's the thing, which we'll see more of that. And basically, his mom takes him to the hospital because he's looking all sick and stuff, and he's in the hospital. This scene, I can't exactly remember. She's like asleep beside him, and he keeps trying to reach up for the blood bag, and then she's like, she doesn't see it because he puts his hand down before she like actually wakes up, and then she's like, oh, let me go get the doctor. So she goes to get the doctor, and as she does, he grabs the fucking blood bag and just goes,
yeah, it's all over his face.
Yeah, and then his mom screams. That's the last time we see his mom alive, because she dies off screen. Out of nowhere, just fucking dies.
Yeah, somehow she just died.
Yeah.
Did she die? She was at his funeral, though, wasn't she?
Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess she was at his funeral.
So she wasn't dead. Like, she just died right after that.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then he eats the blood, and then he dies again.
Yeah.
So, then we go to... Okay, this is where it gets a little confusing. Okay, so Ryan dies... Not Ryan. Danny dies. And now we cut to his funeral. Everybody's kind of at his funeral, but we focus on one guy. His name is Mike. And Mike is like the grave digger. So he's sitting beside this tree as everybody else is over here. And he starts eating it. We get a shot of his sandwich. That, I don't know why.
It was a transition, right?
I don't think so.
Because it was like something with the coffin. It transitioned from the Bible to the sandwich, because he opened up the Bible.
Oh yeah,
he
opens up his sandwich for
they wanted to do a random transition.
Yeah, so he opens up his sandwich
to
like
observe
a book.
it.
Yeah, like a book. And this is the weirdest peanut butter and jelly sandwich I've ever seen. He's got like the most minute amount of peanut butter on there.
Yeah, like a dab of peanut
butter. It got
to
the point. Cam didn't even realize it was peanut butter. He goes, "Is that just a jelly sandwich?"
Yeah, he's a jelly sandwich.
I guess people with peanut allergies.
Oh, well, you might as well not eat it then. Just stay away from it.
Just eat toast.
Yeah, eat toast, or damn, put something on there. So Nutella or something. Is Nutella peanuts?
It's
chocolate.
It's nut. No.
Oh yeah,
Nutella is not chocolate.
It is nut. A lot of nut in Nutella.
Shut up. So he eats it, and then it's like as he's eating it, it cuts, and it's dark again, and homie fucking passed out.
Yeah, and then this is what's stupid about this movie to me.
And when I say passed out, he fell asleep.
There's like things that don't make sense about this movie. So he fell asleep at a tree near the funeral.
Like
most funerals, they have guys out there directing it and stuff in real life. This funeral, they just, we're just going to lower him in there, and then I guess the gravedigger will come and take care of it after.
Yeah, this is it was like broad daylight when he was eating the sandwich. Now it looks like it's 3 a.m. And he's only 50 yards, or not 50 yards, like 50 feet away from the...
Yeah, like that. You could have saw him asleep. Like you would think whoever the funeral director or whatever, the priest
somebody was there, and he saw, and they literally had a conversation before he went and ate his sandwich.
Yeah, and you'd think okay, this is a funeral. We can't just leave a
guy's sleeping.
Yeah, we can't just leave. Well, that, and we can't just leave an open grave here.
Grave robbing. That was popular back in the day.
It still is popular. But it's like there's usually director or security guard even at graveyard. I don't know.
Did you notice? Was there any headstones?
I don't know.
I don't think I saw any headstones.
That's what I'm talking about. See, I can see why this movie didn't do that well because it's just stupid things like that. Why, of all things that happen, why not just have it be, maybe have it be where he does something at the coroner's office? Because they didn't need to have a funeral for him. Literally, it seems like the funeral was just for the damn peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Transition.
Yeah, transition. That's what it's for. Because immediately after,
he wakes up from his slumber in the middle of the night and just goes, oh, that was normal. And then walks away to go fill in the grave. Now, hold on. Before I get into the more juicy part, here's another nitpick, a random weird thing that I brought up while watching the movie. He's going to fill the dirt back into the grave.
Yeah, by hand.
With a shovel.
I guess they did. But
that's fine.
That's normal.
That's fine. The one part that made me was like, what the hell? Was because the grave, he's putting the dirt back in. It's not like dirt they just brought back. The dirt was 10, 15 feet away from the grave. He had to take a good 10 steps to get back to, he would shovel, walk, then put it back in. I'm like, dude, why are you moving?
Yeah, normally they have a
big mound just right beside it.
Yeah, and it's covered. They cover it with a green thing or something so the family doesn't look at it.
But they just, I don't know. It was just, that's another nitpick. But as he's filling in
who took it over there?
Huh?
Did he dig it so they're burying it with shovels? It's just him. Did he dig up that grave?
I guess he did
a day.
He did a damn good job because that's
not damn peanut butter and jelly. That's damn human growth hormone. That's damn steroids.
Steroids and blood.
He's pulling Joe Rogan and he's pulling Joe Rogan. And
that wasn't Mike. That was Liver King.
he's eating up crunched up. That was crushed bull balls spread on the sandwich, and the peanut butter was actual nut. It's got a lot.
Okay,
it has a lot of protein, like a horse trunk a lot.
So he's filling this back in, and he hears a knock.
Mikey Quinn.
Yeah, he hears a knock at the grave. So he's like, "What the hell?" And then all of a sudden, the knocking gets a little bit more frequent, and then he starts hearing Danny's voice inside. So he goes, and he's like, at first he looks away, he looks like he's pondering, should I leave? And then he's like, I guess I gotta fucking help this kid. So he gets down in the grave, opens it. Danny's still dead. He's just dead as a doornail. So then he gets back out, starts filling it again. So I guess they had to have it spaced out because whenever he puts the dirt in, he turns his back to walk away from the grave. So there's their reasoning on why the mound is so far away.
But even if you could have just had him slowly Like the camera following
it
slowly.
could be tired from, even though you just napped.
I'd be tired too if I was walking back and forth carrying one shovel load of dirt to bury a 6 foot deep hole.
I mean, he just napped. That is fucking steroids in a sandwich.
Yeah, his horse ball sandwich.
So he turns his back as he's walking away, and then you kind of see him, like you get the camera as he's walking towards the camera, which is towards the mound, and you see like I keep saying Ryan. You see Danny like float up because vampires can fly in this movie.
Yeah, and it's one of those. It's kind of like when Sam just falls flat, like on.
Yeah,
it's like the way they get, like when he gets caught and pulled up into the air. It's like, whoa! Like it's just like it looks like they just cropped him and then
they cut his body out and then froze it and then they just raised it some Microsoft Paint looking thing.
It's the same with like when he floats up, you just see him slowly float up.
So he flies up, and then whenever Mike goes back because he doesn't see him fly up, he goes back to the grave, and Danny's not in there anymore, and then. I don't think we see anything else. He turns back around towards the mound because he's freaking out, and then Danny just like that. Looks like they just cut him out this time. He
jumps him. He pushes him into the grave. He tackles him into the grave.
Yeah, and then we cut. Which, okay. Here's another thing. Oh, so we cut, and Ben is now in Mr. Burke's classroom, and he's talking because Mr. Burke previously during the search for Ralph had mentioned that he wanted to have Ben come into his classroom and talk about his books because the kids would be excited to see a real life writer.
So this means a day has passed.
Yes.
So nobody noticed there was a
open grave.
No
kid in there.
Nobody. Yeah.
Where's Mike?
Yeah, unless he had Mike buried, like finished burying it. Which I mean, I guess I'll be like, fuck.
So. We see that, and then this is, again, me trying to write stuff down. I feel like I missed a conversation here. All I wrote down was that there's this little girl who I have an irrational hatred towards because all she said was her name. I'm Becky Woods, and are you in love with Miss Irons, which is Susan? I'm like, oh my God.
How does Becky Woods know about Miss Irons?
And
I was like, it was funny because he was like, probably going off to kill damn Becky Woods. Like, he said it like he hated Becky Woods. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, do you go to school there?
He said, do you know Becky Woods? I was like, no, she was earlier in the movie.
Probably going to go get that damn Becky Woods.
Just got randomly pissed off. She just seemed like a know-it-all. Oh, I'm ripping. See, he's pissing me off. I'm ripping shit.
Becky Woods, the real villain.
Bro, she was worse than Barlow. But, so then I think I'm going to say we cut to this part. We cut to... Mark is at home and he gets a knock on his window and he looks and it's Danny. Now vampires have these like glowing
these vampires.
Yeah, these vampires have these like glowing orangish.
They look like
red.
Have you ever seen like a dog in a picture?
Yes.
Like a dog at night?
Yes.
That's how they have like those kind of eyes, like their reflection or whatever.
But Danny's like flying because Mark lives on like the second floor or whatever. So he's kind of floating like this. Like, and he kind of looks like a ghost because it's foggy outside because when there's fog, there's vampires. And he's knocking on and, they have the original trope where it's like, vampires can't come in unless you invite them in. So he's like, oh, let me in. So Mark does exactly what I would do. Shuts the blinds because Mark, he knows all about horror. But so Danny just goes to the next one. And then I guess... I don't know if this is a real trope for just, vampires in general, or if this is just something for this movie, but he says, the master commands it, let me in. And then you see like Mark's eyes go foggy and he lets him in. So Danny starts flying in very slowly. Mark is backing up towards his diorama. And this is where I said, here comes the cross, because as soon as Danny's like right there about to get him, Mark reaches around, grabs that cross and puts it up against Danny's face and then burns a cross into his face and he gets pushed out because crosses literally push them. Like it's not just they're afraid and they leave. Like he literally holds it out and Danny just flies out. Yeah. Taken after his dad, Homelander.
Homelander.
So Mark,
you done nicked me little boy.
yeah. So Mark immediately shuts all of his windows and does exactly what I do when faced with the supernatural. Goes through every single supernatural comic and just writes down all the rules of vampires. Because this kid, I'm telling you, is the most badass character. Sorry, I just had a Ben moment right there, just slamming shit for no reason.
Yeah.
I need to figure out a way to put this.
I'm telling you, we're gonna have a table next time.
Yeah, we're gonna get Cam to bring his table next time.
Yeah, we're gonna bring a fold-out table.
So, yeah, he's just the most badass character in this movie. He's an 11-year-old kid, just literally more badass than any other character. But the cross moves him out, and he starts studying, and then we get a scene, which I don't know if this came before or after the Mark scene, but we get Mr. Burke is now at a bar, and he sees in a dark corner, he sees Mike.
The grave digger.
Yeah, the
bull balls.
Yeah. He's in a dark corner. So Mr. Burke goes over there and starts talking to him, and he's like, "Hey, you don't look so good. You look terrible. You're fucking ugly.
Yeah.
I hate your ass." No, he just says, "Like, you don't look so good. You look sick." And Mike is like, "Oh, I'm not feeling too good ever since a funeral." And he starts like mentioning like some weird things, like, "Oh, I saw his eyes." And Mr. Burke is like, "Oh, that's weird." He's like, "Well, the doc is not in right now, so how about you come and stay with me tonight, and we will go to the doctor in the morning." So they go back to Mr. Burke's house, and he's sitting there talking to him, and he notices that Mike has those 2 little puncture holes in his neck. And this is the part where so Cam had a problem with this. I don't have too much of a problem with this. I have a problem with something that happens a little bit later, like not even a couple minutes later. He immediately is just like, vampires.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like,
sense. But I mean,
my first. Oh man, he's sick and he's acting weird. We live in must be vampires.
Yeah.
I see any crackhead dying on the street. A vampire got him. That's
zombie. I mean, to be fair,
a zombie.
I mean, to be fair, you remember those videos that were going around in like Cincinnati?
Bath salt guys?
No, there's like that video or something in like Cincinnati or something like that of that woman who was like walking and stumbling. I'll have to show it to you later. But she like had scraggly hair and she was.
She had acid burns or something, right?
I know exactly. I know what happened. It was a stunt. The woman put on makeup. I don't know if you're thinking of what I'm talking about, but I'll show you later. But yeah, so people thought it was a zombie. So I mean, it's not too far off. And if I saw puncture holes that look like I don't know what I would think in that scenario. That's not the part I had a problem with because again, it's a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not like it's not like I wouldn't hate on the movie just because I just thought it was stupid. That's why I said it was fast paced.
So Mr. Burke goes over as he's having his suspicions and slowly closes the window. And the tops of like the window sills or whatever of like that singular pane. It's got that big block of just plastic. It goes past Mike's eyeline, who's sitting on the bed behind Mr. Burke. And whenever it comes back, you see his eyes like fade from that glowing, orangey red.
You see the flash of it, yeah.
Yeah, like you see like it looks like it glowed for the split second that he was closing it. So then that's when we know, yeah, he's a vampire. So Mr. Burke goes downstairs and he starts smoking a pipe. I don't know if he heard something or whatever it was, but he walks outside and he looks to his right, which is where the window would have been on the second floor, and he sees the screen is now on the ground. And whenever he looks up when he looks up the window, you just see Micah flying back in. And Mr. Burke goes, "Fucking nope," and he leaves to go find Ben and Susan.
Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah,
I don't know why. It just finds Ben and Susan, and he was just like, "Yeah, I fucking know. It sounds crazy."
If it were me, I would have just left.
Yeah. But he's like, "I know that sounds crazy, but it's fucking the creature of the night and vampires." So then here's the part where I started to have a problem with it because Ben and Susan go in there with flashlights because now the power's out, and they see Mike laying on the bed. And the puncture holes are gone, and he just looks dead as a doornail because his hand like flops down onto the ground, and they're like, he's Mr. Burke is kind of persuading them into believing, and then Ben sees like this very very small like pinhole sized spot of blood And it's just like, yeah, it's fucking vampires.
Yeah.
Just fucking
Yeah, he has no puncture holes now. He's just a dead guy. And it's like I would be thinking Burke's crazy or something.
Yeah.
He just killed a guy.
So
Because he's like, hey, come to my house. He's dead. He's in my house, and I saw him fly out of the window.
Vampire.
Yeah. So, come and help me bury the body.
Yeah. So Miss Burke is like, what do I do? And Ben is like, well, what you do is we call the doctor, and then we just say that he was sick. You brought him back, and he died. And that's it.
Because that's how that works.
Yeah, and he just died, and then you're good. You're free. You're free. Yeah.
Yeah, no cops, no nothing. Just
Well, the cop was there. The one
sheriff.
The one sheriff, who I forgot to mention, was like kind of an asshole to. Well, I guess he wasn't that much of an asshole to Ben, but he was just like, "Oh, don't give me." He basically said, and this is funny now that I think about it. When we first see him, when Ben first comes into Salem's lot, he pulls him over and he says, or no, Ben was already pulled over looking at the Marston house, I think.
Yeah.
And the cop comes up and is like, oh, what are you doing here? And blah, blah, blah. And then he basically says, no, don't go causing trouble because trouble gives me work and I don't like to work, which is funny because of something later. But yeah, so they're all at Mr. Burke's house. The doc here, she is funny. She's like one of the funniest characters in this movie. Both intentionally, oh my, screw that. She's there, and she's just assessing. She's like, yeah, he's dead. Pretty much just fucking dead. And
yeah. Well, anything you can tell us about? Yeah, this fucking dead.
Yeah, he's dead. And so then Mr. Burke starts trying to make connections between Danny and Mike because Mr. Burke knew that the last time that Mike had felt good was during Danny's funeral. So if he assumes vampire, he thinks Danny's a vampire. So she said that, he had to, I forget exactly what it was, but she found
where his blood, he couldn't produce blood.
And that's how Danny died. So Mr. Burke is like, oh, so he couldn't produce enough blood, huh? And then everybody just kind of looks at him. And then she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. That's it. So then we get, I guess, Mr. Burke again. I guess this is the part where we saw Mark. I don't know. This movie's kind of a jumbled mess. All I know is that Mr. Burke is now, Mike's body, I guess, was transported to the morgue, but they don't say that now. They say that later.
Yeah.
So I just assume they left him inside of his house because he's sitting at this desk and he's got a mirror right above him. So he hears this thing behind him, looks in the mirror, doesn't see anything. And you knew that immediately. You're like, oh, yeah, he's behind him. So you hear something.
I saw fog. You could see fog.
Oh, I didn't see the fog.
In the background, like if you look in the mirror. I mean, that's what I think it was. It looked like smoke just in the mirror.
I was trying to write. So
you're just like, oh, my house is burning down. Thank God.
So,
it's not a vampire.
But if he was moved to like the morgue, how did he get in? But they never actually really established that they can't come in.
They must, because why would Mark hide in the treehouse and they can't get in there? He shut the windows and doors. They're fucking vampires. Like, they can just rip the doors off. Maybe he invited him in earlier and that counts. Like,
see, maybe that's why. Again, suspend belief. But
like he's like, come in, I'll take care of you, maybe.
So he looks up in the mirror, doesn't see anything, looks back down, hears another noise, stands up, turns around, there's Mike. Just attacks him. So they fight a little bit. Mr. Burke gets, across and like, he like pushes Mike up against the wall. He's like literally floating off the ground. Like, it kind of looks like for him gravity was inverted. So like it felt like he was just laying down, but just on the wall. And then he kind of like rolls himself into the door frame and falls. And Cam made a joke. He was like, what if the cross was you were able to just go like this and he just gets slammed up against the wall?
Now you're thinking like, the Freddy vs. Jason scene where he's like playing pinball with Jason and they have the little pinball noises?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking as I started doing the cross.
Yes. So they start, fighting and you're thinking Mr. Burke's about to die because he gets tackled by Mike. The cross falls out of his hands. Mr. Burke falls down the stairs. He bangs his head up. He finally is able to get the cross again. and like expel Mike out of his house, and Mike just goes flying out the front door. And then we cut to the doctor talking to some lady. I forget who the lady was, and they're like, "Oh, where's Mike's body? Is he still in the mortuary or whatever?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." They go and they said, "Oh," the doc says, "Oh, what do you think? He just a dead body just up and walked out." And they cut. They open the thing. Mike's body's in there, and she goes, "That's some shit." So literally the best fucking lines, I feel like, because then they cut, and Ben, Susan, and the doctor are all at Mr. Burke's house, and Mr. Burke is like passed out because he just had a fucking battle. So the doc walks in, and she's like patching him up, and they're talking about what to do. And Ben is like, "Oh, well, the way we can confirm this is vampires is, if we're assuming that Mike was bit by Danny, then we can go, just dig up Danny's grave," which I guess after Mike...
And who are they confirming to?
Themselves.
But Burke already got attacked.
Well, I don't know. I feel like they were just trying to prove it to
Were they confirming it to the doctor?
I guess. But here's another thing. So they're saying they're going to go dig up Danny's grave. So is that just assuming that fucking Mike got bit? And then after he got bit, it was just like, I guess I'm just going to finish his grave. Just fucking...
Yeah.
He had another...
Well, I would have been like, if Mike ran away already, if he got out of the morgue and he was confirmed dead, and they put him in the morgue.
That's enough.
But they're fine with going to check on his dead body. But
they weren't.
Digging up Danny, that's a problem. Even though his mom... Oh, yeah. His mom's dead.
Yeah, so hold on, we'll get there. So Ben is like, "Yeah, well, let's go dig up this body," and Doc is like, "Are you serious? You want to go dig up an 11-year-old boy's body?" And he goes, "Yeah, don't you?" And she goes, "No, why would I?" And he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "Yeah, why would I believe? Basically, why would I believe he's a vampire?" And Burke goes, "I was just attacked in my own home by Mike, who you thought was dead, because he's a fucking vampire." His line delivery was great. So then, this is what you were about to mention. So then the doc's like, "Oh, we don't got to go dig up his grave, because we can just go look at his mom, who just is dead now. She's just dead.
She died from the same thing.
Just out of nowhere. We saw her at the funeral, now she's dead." So they split up, I think, at this point, right? Yeah, they split up. So Burke was like, "All right, I know all I need to know about vampires, but I don't know enough." This is the part where I had like serious issue, because Mike kept mentioning Barlow. So I guess it kind of makes a little bit of sense, but Mike was like, "Oh, Master Barlow," or whatever, because these fucking vampires can't keep their damn mouths shut about things. So Mr. Burke was like, "Oh, I know enough about vampires, but I don't know a lot about Barlow, so I'm going to go do my research." So Burke is going to go to the antique shop. Again, no fucking relevance. And then Ben, Susan, and...
Well, it does have relevance because they know that Straker guy is...
Yes, but I'm saying like the antique shop itself. Like you don't really ever... like there's no significance to the antique shop itself.
I'm sure in the book it has more.
Yeah. But so Ben, Susan, and the doc are gonna go to the morgue where Danny's mom is at currently. So we split up and we see Mr. Burke is going to he's standing out front of the antique shop, and he is looking, and then he sees Straker dancing with a woman.
It's the girl everybody likes, mom. What's the chick name?
It's not her mom.
Yeah, it was her mom.
Are you sure?
Yes, it was her mom.
Why?
Because that's how the mom met Barlow.
But she said it was Barlow that got a hold of her. That said he'd take care of him. Not
yeah,
Straker.
Because through Straker. Straker probably introduced her to Barlow. That's why she was dancing with Straker earlier.
But why? But that's my thing. Why?
Straker must have introduced himself to her. You're questioning this movie. There's already so many things.
So Burke looks over and
that's who he was dancing with.
Okay, we'll just say yeah. So Burke was Burke turns his head and looks and sees that the Marston house is up on the hill. So he goes. He's like, "All right, guess I'm going to the Marston house." And you think that he's about to just go kill Barlow because you see a stake in somebody's hand, but it's actually fucking Mike. It's 11-year-old Mark. It's 11-year-old Mark. A lot of M's in this movie. So he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna go kill Barlow. I'm just gonna kill the head of the snake." And because Mark is badass, so he goes. He finds the cellar, goes into the cellar, and then boom, there's Mr. Burke, who's behind him. It's like, "You should leave." And Mark is like, "No, you don't understand. There's vampires." And Mr. Burke is like, "Trust me, I do. But we should get out of here." And right as they do, Straker, I guess, is there, and he closes it and locks it. So then they have to go through the house. And as they're going through, you wouldn't fucking believe it, the candle that Mr. Burke lit to give them light blows out. Oh shit. There's Barlow. Bites the fuck out of Mr. Burke.
Yeah, Barlow's like, the rest of the vampires look like the traditional, like, two teeth.
Just looks like the people.
They just look like a dead person with pointy teeth, like canines.
So, but as
Barlow's bald, pointy ears.
Nosferatu kind of.
Yeah, full mouth of teeth. Yeah.
So, as Barlow is a viciously attacking Burke, which we get a good shot of him here, and he does look good. Straker opens the door connecting the house to the cellar, not the outside door that they just walked through, and takes Mark. Fuck. I don't know why he does that. Why not just leave him down there for Barlow to kill?
I don't know, man.
He takes him and takes him upstairs.
Not my expertise here.
Yeah, so he takes him upstairs and ties him from the ceiling from his feet, so he's hanging upside down. So then we cut, and we're with Ben, Susan, and Doc. I don't know her name. I forgot her name. Does she have a name? Is it just Doc?
They just say Doc.
Okay. So
same as the priest, they say Father, I think.
Yeah. So, one thing to mention before we continue. There's a priest. We're going to meet him later. We catch a glimpse of him towards the beginning. He's being let out of jail. He spent the night in jail because he's an alcoholic. That's important. Remember that. That's another fine.
He's not very priestly.
No. So, anyways, like I was saying, they're all at the morgue, and there's Danny's mom laying on the table with a sheet over her. And, yeah, she's like, "See, she's dead. There's nothing wrong." And then she starts moving, and she's like, "Oh, fuck." Yeah. So I forget exactly what she said, but she said something because her shoe falls off. And I kind of like this scene. It's, she moving around. They're trying to make a cross out of those, what are they called? Popsicle sticks.
They look like it. They're like the ones where they check your, like doctors check your mouth.
They
like
put it on your tongue and say, whatever.
Yeah, and they hold your tongue down with those.
So she's trying to put two together, and it's not working because they know about crosses.
You have to bind them together.
So they're using tape.
That's a rule with crosses, I guess.
Yeah, you got to bind them. So
I don't know where that.
And apparently, Doc's bag is just an endless bottomless pit because every 5 seconds she goes, in my bag for different items.
No, she was saying that. Are you sure? I thought she was saying that for.
No, I'm saying because the tape was in her bag, and then the other thing that we'll get to was also in her bag. Just a lot of things are in her bag. So Susan goes and grabs the tape. They tie it together. It starts to glow because whenever there's a vampire around, any cross will start to glow like this, golden glow. So they're trying to stop her, and then it stops. I think it snaps or something because then Danny's mom is able to get closer, and she tackles the Doc into a corner, and Ben is holding her back, with the sheet. You could see the imprint of her face and the teeth. And
that was a good shot.
It was. But then the Doc does something that I find stupid. It doesn't happen. The thing that I was like, that's stupid for this reason, the reason doesn't happen, but it's still stupid. So she's got this sheet over her face, and that's the only thing that Ben is holding back. He's holding the sheet so that the vampire can't get any closer. So Doc grabs his knife and just starts stabbing it. And I'm like, the more holes you put in it, the more it's just those holes are just going to rip open. And now she can reach for it. Doesn't happen. Doc still gets bit. And I forget exactly. Did they open the window? No, they grab the cross and put it against her back, and then she just. That's another thing.
Disappears.
She disappears.
She didn't die. She wasn't dead.
But she just.
They
disappears.
all do that. I mean, Brian's the only one where he flew backwards, I think.
She's the only one.
Or it was Mike where he flew back, but the other ones, like Ryan, just disappeared too.
No, they didn't.
Well, I don't think she died. I think she just fleed. Because I know, like, vampire, because that's like a thing they can do, turn into smoke.
I don't fucking know. Because they put the cross on her back, and then she, like, gets burned and then turns into dust and disappears. But whenever Mark did it to Danny in his room, he put it on his face. You just get the imprint of the cross, and then he flies away. So it
doesn't kill them. It just keeps them away. That's all the crosses do.
So then...
Stake through the heart kills them.
Yeah. So then Doc is like, she's just been bit. And she goes, in my bag again. And there's a rabies shot. That cures them.
I think don't they get the blood out or something too?
I didn't notice
that. I don't know what they do. Somehow they manage to stop her from getting infected and they test this with the cross. But it's like she hasn't even turned yet. Like, it takes a day at least to turn. So,
and we notice that later. I don't know. So then we cut back to Mark. Mark is hanging.
The more you analyze, the more you see why this movie didn't.
Yes. The more I talk about it. I still like the movie.
Yeah, it's an enjoyable movie.
We had technical difficulties. So as I was saying, we cut back and Mark is hanging from his feet. In the upstairs room of the Marston house. And he's able to get himself down. And as he does, here comes Straker. And Straker walks in the room, sees that Mark isn't in there. And then Mark comes out of nowhere with the fucking like crowbar or some shit and just knocks Straker down like off camera. And then you just see Mark's silhouette raise it up and then smash, and you see a blood splatter on the wall. So Mark, again, badass shit happening with him. Yeah. So then we get little subtle shots as at some so Ben, Susan, and Doc are heading to the church to talk to the priest, and as they're on the way there, we see like little glimpses of different things. Like we see a mechanic who's laying kind of lifeless under a car. Earlier in the movie, when Ben was driving through Salem's lot, we see different things. Like there's a milkman who's going to replace the empty milk cartons. Well, now we're seeing milk just sitting on the porch. Nobody's touched them. So we're slowly. This is one thing I liked. A lot of people I saw in the reviews didn't like that. They didn't like those a lot of off-screen kills because obviously this is implying that, vampires are slowly taking over and killing people. But I kind of like that. We don't need to see every single kill. This is, I feel like, a great way of showing us, like, callbacks like, oh, this is different than what it usually is. So that's cool. So they go and talk to the priest, and the priest is like, listen, I've always been into the supernatural, so there's not a lot you gotta do to convince me. And as they're talking, Mark comes in and he's like, yep, they fucking kidnapped me. They killed Burke and now I'm going to go kill him. And then he takes this bottle and he goes, I'm just going to borrow this. And then fucking takes this bottle and fills up the holy water. Is like, yeah, I'm going to kill Barlow. And then fucking Ben's like, you're a child. And he's like, you're like 11. He goes, 3/4. What are you going to do about it? Pretty much. So they're like, okay, I guess we're going to go to the Marston house and kill Barlow. So they all go. It's Mark, Ben, Susan, the doc, and the priest. They all go. Barlow's not there. But they do get attacked by Burke. And this is the first time we get to see sunlight burning Burke, or a vampire in general. So the sunlight keeps them back because they open the cellar doors. And Ben is the one to drive the stake through Burke's heart, ultimately kills him. So then they're leaving because Barlow isn't there. And they've already noticed that pretty much the whole town is pretty much gone. So they're like, all right, here's what we got to do. We got to get everybody to the church because that's sacred ground. So they split up once again. So Doc is going to go to the church to wait on people. The priest and Mark are going to go to Mark's house to get Mark's parents. And then Ben and Susan are going to go get Susan's mom. So first, let's talk about the Doc. This is the part where I talked about the sheriff and how he doesn't want to do work, because when she sees the sheriff leaving, the sheriff is like, I'm not staying here. And like, why would I stay here? I mean, he's smart, but he doesn't get far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow, which doesn't make sense, but somehow he doesn't get far.
Yeah, he's just basically saying, like, have you not noticed? There's everybody's gone. Like, there is no town here left. So then we'll go over to Mark. Mark and the priest are talking to his parents, and obviously his parents are like, fucking, they're asking the questions, apparently Cam will be asking. We're like, fucking vampires? What are you guys talking about? They get a knock at the door, and Mark's dad is like, all right, I'm going to go answer the door. And the priest tries to tell him to stop, but he literally goes, stop. Like, so quiet. He's like, don't do that. So
I kind of want to see what happens, Mark.
Just Mark. Mark's dad opens the door and walks out into the porch. And you're thinking...
And he lives.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
But you're thinking that he's about to get, like, flung back through the door because you stay on, like, that shot of the door. The front door is open. Mark's dad is, like, you can't see him outside. You just see the door open. You're thinking about to get flung back. You hear his dad. But then it cuts to his mom. And as soon as it cuts, Barlow, Count Orlok looking dude behind her, bites her neck. And then it cuts back to the door, and Mark's dad comes in. His neck is all bloody. So that's pretty freaking... You would think it's pretty traumatizing for Mark, but no. So then the priest is like, Mark, run. So then he tries to use the crucifix on Barlow. But then Barlow is like, oh, you're not a real priest. Like, I know what you've been doing.
No, he doesn't. He says something about it's so sad when a man loses his faith.
Yes.
I think it's like, because, like, I think a rule with it, like, this is just general vampire rules, but I think you also have to have faith when you use a cross against a vampire. Because you can't, if you didn't believe, like, truly believe, then if you didn't truly have faith, then the cross wouldn't work. It would have no power or something. I think that's like general vampire stuff. Not just with this, but I think it's the same case there. Maybe Barlow's just really powerful. So you have to really have faith for it to work against him.
So, yeah, the cross doesn't work. It stops glowing, and Barlow kills the priest. Now, this is the part I actually liked a lot. And I don't know, maybe you want to comment on this, but whenever Mark is running, he runs to his treehouse, and as he does, you see all these, like, vampires of all these town people. Like, you see them increasingly get more and more because he goes up, you can hear the voice of Danny in the background, and then he shuts, like, the little floor thing, and then he starts shutting all the wooden windows, like the makeshift windows, and with each window he shuts, you see, like, there's one where he shuts as Danny's coming towards him. He goes to the other window and starts to shut it, and when he shuts it, you see another vampire crawling on the wall outside, and then you get an overhead shot of all of them, like, crawling around.
Yeah, there's, like, a lot of them. I can't...
Like, a lot. And it was so...
Yeah, it's a cool shot. It has a lot of cool shots.
This cinematography in this is pretty good, especially towards the end. So he's stuck in the treehouse right now. So then Ben and Susan are at Susan's mom's house, who we got established earlier that she doesn't really like Ben because she thinks that Susan's just going to run away with him. So they go inside, and she's like, I don't want him here. So then he walks out, and then she's talking, and then Susan's mom is like, oh, don't worry. I found a man that's going to take care of us. His name's Barlow. And then just out of nowhere, fucking Barlow's behind, or no.
No, it's not Barlow. It's the guy that was mean mugging Ben at the beginning.
Oh yeah, who
had a thing for her.
Yeah, who likes Susan, and
he doesn't really speak or anything. But
no, but he bites Susan, and Ben runs back in because he was watching. He didn't really stop him or anything. So he goes and he stops, him for biting her, and then he takes her out and leaves. So because Straker's dead, Susan's mom is now the servant to Barlow because she was not a vampire because she was standing in direct sunlight.
Which, my problem though is, why does Barlow need a servant at this point?
No, he doesn't. I don't know.
The town is I mean, if he wants to go to another town and do the same thing. But.
Yeah. So she pulls out a shotgun. I don't think she shoots it yet, but she pulls out a shotgun. That's important later too. So then they leave, and Ben takes Susan to the church where Doc is waiting, and he wants to give her the shot. So he gets her inside, and when they go inside, she's like convulsing. She's like full on almost vampire right now. All the crosses inside start glowing, and Doc is like, there's nothing you can do. She's dead. And before she could drive the stake in, Susan pushes Ben off and runs out. Ben goes running after her, and then he loses her when he gets in the middle of like the main street and looks over towards the town, and through the fog, standing on rooftops, standing in the road, just another cool shot, bunch of vampires, like pretty much the entire town.
Yeah, it's all foggy and dark. It gives me the vibe of, you remember when the 3 Spider-Men were on the...
Yes.
It's like that foggy in the moon, just silhouette.
And the one thing...
That's always such a cool thing to do. Like, it doesn't matter what character it is, it always look cool.
And another thing that I liked about this shot was the fact that it was kind of like a one-shot type thing where you kind of follow him as he runs out, and then when he notices all the vampires, it doesn't cut. Camera pans with him as he runs back, and whenever it does cut, it cuts to the cameras like inside the door, and it's facing him as he's running towards the door, and then a vampire swoops him, takes him back up.
Yeah.
But right before
you hear him stab it.
Right before Doc throws
it's Mike. I think it was Mike.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Mike.
Oh, it was Mike. So Mike
the
gravedigger. But right before he swoops him up, the Doc throws him a stake.
It only took 3 times.
And then you hear him stab him, and they come falling back down with like Ben on top of him, so he doesn't hit the ground.
Yeah, because that's how that works.
And then so then they get back inside. So then they wait till morning. All the vampires are gone, and they go to try to find Mark. And when they get to Mark's house,
you forgot another part that happens at this point.
What?
When he's like, "Where's the sheriff?"
Oh yeah. So he's like, oh, where's the sheriff? And she's like, he's gone. He left. Not that he was. Oh no, he left. And then right as she says that, through like one of those like circular windows, like stained glass, he comes flying through dead, like throat cut out. And she's like, not that he was much help anyways. So back at it again with the funny comments.
Yeah.
So the next day, like I said, they go to Mark's house. Mark is gone now, but he left a note pretty much saying, oh, I'm going to go kill Barlow. Again, literally the most fearless dude ever. And sure enough, he is at Straker and Barlow's antique shop. And he goes in. He doesn't find Barlow, but he does find Danny. Danny comes out.
Danny finds him.
That's true, because he busts the glass and scrapes his hand on the glass, and there's blood. So I guess that's how Danny found him, because they don't really make mention of it.
Yeah, Danny was just there.
Yeah, but Danny like flies towards him, but when he does, the stake...
They almost make it out like Danny recognizes...
Yes, because he's like, so he stops, and then he kind of looks down, and the stake that Mark had impaled him through the chest, and he killed Danny. So then Mark walks out, blood all over his shirt, and here comes Doc and Ben. It's literally like the last 3 people in town now. Like these are like the last 3 living people. So they walk out, and they're like, oh gosh, are you okay, Mark? And he's like, yeah, I tried to kill Barlow, but he wasn't here. And they're like, oh, well, apparently you found some. He goes, yeah, no, not some, just one. There's Danny, but that was it. Technical difficulties again. Apparently I'm running low on space, and I've tried clearing out a lot. So it's about time for me to invest in a camera. But so just to make this quick before I run out of space again, even though I cleared out a bunch of stuff, where were we? Oh, so yeah, they know that they're supposed to be like, it's daylight, and they're all hiding right now. And then Ben looks around the street and is like, oh, do you guys notice something? There's no cars. And he remembers the 3 people that got out of the trunk at the drive-in. So he's like, that's where they must be, using the trunks as, coffins. I don't know why they went to the drive-in to do that, but they did. So they go to the drive-in.
Yeah, it would have probably been more strategic just to
get
in the street. Yeah.
So sure enough, there's all the cars at the drive-in, and he goes and he finds Susan's car, and he opens it, and she's there asleep. And the sun is starting to go down, and he's like, so Mark hands him the stake, and he's like, we got to kill her. And the Doc is like, it's not her anymore. I know this is hard. It's not her anymore. It's just something that looks like her. And if you want me to do it, I'll do it. So he goes, yeah, I can't do it. Gives it to the Doc. and the doc is about to stab her, gets just fucking brutally shot.
Yeah, she's dead. Like,
Dead,
it's not
dead.
even any questions about it. She's dead.
And it's Susan's mom. She's like, "Oh, don't touch my baby." So then it's literally the last last two alive people, because I'm not even going to count the mom. The mom's under some sort of spell at this point. It's just Mark and Ben. Mark hides under a car, and I'm trying to go through this quick, but Ben runs, and the sun starts to dip below the big screen. So with every car that's in the shadow now, they start to open, and here comes the vampire. So Mark is trying to battle off all this stuff and all these vampires, and or not Mark, Ben is, and Mark is able to, you know, get out, and they start running, but then uh, Ben is tackled, and he tells Mark to run because Mark is not in the shadow right now, but like I said, with each car that gets
And the
into
shadow
the
is brought by the screen.
yes, yeah.
Drive-in movie theater screen is what's blocking the sun.
So Ben has like three vampires on top of him, and Mark finds this idea. Again, Mark just being badass.
Ben was kind of badass too because he did impale two of them.
Yeah, that double kill. Like he stabbed one he like put the spike on the ground or something, and then flipped one over, and it impaled him through the back. And then he did the same. Like he pushed another one on top of that one, so double kill.
And he was holding back three of them.
Yeah. So then Mark gets in a car and drives through the bottom post of the screen, making the screen fall over and reveal the sun, and all of them burn up, except for obviously Barlow, who is not here. They find this car, this big old truck that has Barlow's coffin inside of it, and they pull it out, and they're trying to get it open. They can't get it open, and then the sun goes down, and Barlow comes out. So whenever they do, he flies up in the sky. So Ben gets Mark inside of like the little concessions area inside. Susan's in there and starts attacking them and throws Mark through this 11-year-old Mark through a window. So Mark is now outside. Ben is battling Susan, and we get two fights now because Mark is outside and he looks up at the projector, which is now turned on because Susan pushed Ben up against like the power switch or whatever. So now the projector's on, and Mark looks up, and standing in front of the projector is a full body Barlow, and you see him clear as day now. And that was pretty badass.
Yeah, it was a good shot.
So
looked like Batman. That's what he kind of reminded me like Batman.
So we're getting Ben versus Susan, and eventually he does overpower her, and he does kill her, and she's crying. It's not her anymore, so why are you crying? But
maybe they come back normal when they die.
Maybe, but so then Mark manages to get under the screen that's like kind of being held up on top of the cars, and he's like crawling, and Barlow is like smashing his hand through trying to grab him. And pretty much what happens is you think that there's about to be this big fight because Barlow grabs Mark's shirt, but then he gets stabbed through the back of the head and through the mouth with a stake. Ben saved him. And then they leave. If that sounded anticlimactic to you guys, it's not just because I was rushing through that. It was because that's just what it was. There was no really epic fight. It was just he died.
Yeah, he died. That was it.
Yeah. But Cam did have a question. He was like, well, because this takes place in Maine, like we said, Derry.
Yeah, Stephen King.
Derry.
And I always wonder this about Stephen King movies. Are they connected? So what if Derry is like the next town over, and then they go to Derry, and then Mark's lured in by a clown?
Well, I wonder
dies by
Pennywise. Like you would ask, what would a Barlow versus Pennywise?
Oh yeah, like? Yeah, that would be interesting.
Let's get that.
A vampire versus whatever Pennywise is.
Yeah, the dead dreadlights or whatever.
The deadlight. I mean, those are stronger than vampire. I'm assuming.
Yeah, because that's really just what Pennywise is. But that was Salem's Lot. I think if you're not trying to look, if you're just trying to look for something to throw on in the background of like a Halloween
party, or you like vampire stuff,
watch it. It's a good watch. It's fine. Just don't think too much into it.
5 out of 10 movie. That's what I'll say. It's okay. It's not.
I would give it like a 6. I would give it at least a 6.
5.5, 6. It's okay. Not great. Didn't blow my socks off. I'm sure the original's better. I mean, even with audience reviews, they say it's better. So we should watch that. We will eventually. but not anytime soon because it's 3 hours long.
Yeah.
We got to get Lord of the Rings done first.
Yeah, I do want to do Lord of the Rings. That might be one of the first movies that I do after
We got to get
November.
the trilogy done.
Yes. As for the next 2 spooky season ticket booth episodes, not too sure. But we'll see. Well, I literally I picked Salem's Lot this morning. I did have It's What's Inside from Netflix. That's just come out, so maybe, but we'll see.
I think we should do something old.
That's what I'm thinking. Something that I've seen that you haven't, but I doubt that. We'll figure something out. But hope you guys like this. If you want to go watch it for yourself, go watch it. Don't let any opinions sway you. Do what you want to do. I hope you guys have had fun at this little review of Salem.